Staying consistent, I move with the clock. I'm in the zone, I'm not casting a stone. I'm finna stand on a rock, firm foundation. I got that dog in me, like 101 Dalmatian. I got girl with me, so I knew that I'm still finna make it. I'm still finna take it. I hopped in the ring and I'm still going crazy. I cut off this thing like I just got a taper. I walk in the storm and then God gave me favor. I'm still going forward. I just had to lock in the Lord. I knew that I'm finna make it. Throwing my old self, he got deported. Shout out to the king and I'm finna take
Let's get it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SchuZ Show. I appreciate everybody for tuning in today on this Thursday, August the 1st of 2024. Folks, we're going to have a great show today packed. I've got Elijah Pierce who'll be joining me in about 30-ish minutes. So I'm going to get into a couple segments before that point, but I hinted at it on the Monday episode that most likely I'll be having, or potentially I'll be having, the first non-basketball player on the show, and that will be happening most likely in about 30-ish minutes. So we'll get him added on here when that time comes, but we'll talk to Elijah Pierce about his upcoming fight on August 30th, and we'll get into all that kind of stuff as well. Also, I've got basketball topics we're going to get into today. We're going to talk about the upcoming massive card this weekend on Saturday, the Riyad season in LA. That will be going down too. And then also we're going to get into the verse of the day and the Eternal Echo segment that I've got planned for today. And so I want to just appreciate everybody for tuning in today. And with that, we're just going to get right into the Eternal Echoes segment today. So first and foremost, this will be the verse of the day. I mention it every time, and sometimes it's going to alter in terms of when we do this segment. This time around, I'm just going to give you guys the verse of the day. I'm going to break it down right out the gate. So the verse of the day today will be John chapter 10, verse 11. It reads this: I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Now, the thing about this is that actually the entire segment I'm about to break down came from an entirely different time frame. I actually didn't even plan on this being the verse of the day, but this question I saw online was, what is the difference between a shepherd and a leader? And I prepared the segment now that I'm about to give you guys, and when I came to the conclusion of it, I looked at my phone. The verse of the day that day for my screensaver happened to be John chapter 10, verse 11. And so I thought this was going to perfectly tie it all together. That being said, this Eternal Echo segment, from Genesis to Revelation, the mission to echo his eternal power, it's going to be breaking down what the difference is between a shepherd and a leader. When this question came upon me, I started pondering on it for a little bit. I started trying to think, well, what exactly is the difference? And I looked at it from a biblical aspect, and I know obviously I like to look at the world through the lens of the Bible, and so I immediately kind of was like, well, this seems quite similar. I'm sure there's maybe some differences, but when I look at a lot of the great leaders in the Bible, a lot of them came and were shepherds or had that mindset, and we know what Jesus called us to be, was to be shepherds. And so I said, well, there's not much of a difference now, is there? And then I started thinking about, well, let's look outside the Bible and let's look actually in today's world. How many of the leaders around the world, and that could be political leaders, that could be leaders in different environments and sectors of this entire world, whether that be business, that be political that I alluded to, that be in the sports world, whatever the case may be, any form of leader you can think of. How many of those leaders reflect a shepherd? And I realized that there's not a lot when I think about it. And so as I was pondering on this idea and this concept, I was like, okay, well, how many people even truly grasp the gravity and the understanding of what being a shepherd means? How many people recognize the significance of that term and why Jesus really came on earth and what he reflected and displayed? And I realized it's probably not a lot. This term has been loosely discussed recently in times past, and it becomes less and less really emphasized in today's world. And so I wanted to go to the Bible, and I started thinking, well, okay, so going on the concept of shepherds and leaders, let's go through the Word of God. And I looked through some of these leaders, or figures, I should say, in the Bible, and here's some backstories on a few of them. First of all, we'll go with Abraham. He looked over the flock until leading the potential people as long as he followed God. Now, this might be a little bit different than the leadership we think about, but back then there wasn't a mass, large group of people for him to lead at this point in time. But what the calling was that as long as he followed God's calling for his life and his will, that God was going to supply a massive nation that would come from his bloodline. That was something that he had to lead in the standpoint of leading a family, yes, but leading and allowing God to ultimately lead him. But he started off as a shepherd before he became the head figure of one of the great nations of God's people. Well, then we go to Jacob, and who later becomes Israel, and he was a shepherd of Laban's herd for 20 years before he later leads his family. Now, let's clarify this. Was he the best leader in the Bible? Absolutely not. There's a lot of flaws we know within the storyline of Jacob / Israel, and all that goes on. But what we look at is he had to lead a family. And this family in which he leads becomes the 12 tribes of Israel, which becomes one of the primary emphasis of the entire Old Testament and is now talked about and considered a obviously very impactful and important thing in the New Testament, what obviously came from Jesus and all these different things. And so we talk about him, and then his son Joseph. Well, he was a shepherd at young before he legitimately became a leader of a nation then later on, or second in command in Egypt. But the emphasis I want to put on this one is that we see what he also was a shepherd towards. He was a shepherd towards his family, and he's one of the very first people we see actually start to reflect and share and shine the light of what Jesus will later reflect in the New Testament. And what I mean by that is we talk about he was a legitimate shepherd, yes. He learned how to care for, protect, and whatnot the sheep. But as he grew and became second in command in Egypt, what we see then is that the family and his brothers, I should say specifically, that sold him into slavery, he later looks after them. He leads them, puts them in position. He shepherds his family. And then the person that gets them out of Egypt in Moses. Well, he starts off his first 40 years of life living a royal-like lifestyle. He then kills the Egyptian. He then flees and ends up becoming a shepherd for the next 40 years of his life. And from the age of 40 to 80, he is a shepherd. And in this time, he is learning how to lead. While it might not be people, he's learning to shepherd his flock. And what we see then in the end of this 40 years time span is that's when we have God speaks to Moses through the bush, and he goes back, and now he's ready to lead. Now, he might not be the person that you look at and say, well, this was the guy that has all the great character traits to lead. No, he had a stutter. He was not quite the most fit person that you'd look at and say, this is what I want a leader to be. But yet he was a leader, and he ends up leading and freeing God's people and leads them up until the promised land. Obviously, he's not the one that gets them into the promised land. So do you notice anything yet? And if not, this is what gets me to the main one I want to emphasis on. Because the greatest leader, not named Jesus, but yet is where Jesus' bloodline is traced back to, is King David. He is the one that was a man after God's own heart. He starts off his life as a shepherd before becoming the great leader of God's people. He starts off as a shepherd boy. Nobody could have expected anything from him. And all he does is continue to grow and grow into becoming one of the greatest warriors ever to live, and then becomes king of God's people. And not just a king, but the great king. And throughout this entire process, he, at the very same time, he learns to gather, guide, unite, protect God's people. These character traits are not going to be something that comes from somebody that's not a shepherd. He had to first be humbled and learn how to lead, how to protect, how to be a sacrifice for others until he could become the great leader that we know him to be. Without those character traits and those things that were established in him as a shepherd boy, he would not be the great king that we now think of. And sure, he made mistakes, but yet he became somebody that God could utilize. We saw his abilities as a shepherd boy to becoming the king. But in the between, he also was a great warrior. And that's where we're going to see a difference, is that once you become a leader, then these other traits and these character traits and types of leadership styles come into play. We know he was a great warrior. In fact, he had so much bloodshed on his hands that God said, I don't want you building the temple. Not that you've done things too wrong, or you're not that you didn't follow me, but you've had so much bloodshed on your hands that you cannot lead and build my temple. So he prepared everything, and his son obviously took over and built the temple for God. But he was first a shepherd. And so if you haven't picked up on this yet, before Jesus ever came into existence and we see the good shepherd, there was an emphasis throughout the entire word of God of the importance of being a shepherd first before leadership. One must come before the other. It's not the other way around. Being a shepherd should be the core of every leader. And I'm not just saying good leader. Yes, a good leader would be that, but I should think every leader needs to be a shepherd first. And I don't just mean a literal shepherd. I mean the nurturing, the caring. And that's where we get to the examples of what Jesus was. And here's something that really shocked me. When I was putting together the research for this segment, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go through this Old Testament. I'm going to let you guys see these characters. And then we're going to get to the good shepherd here. Before I get to that one, something caught my eye and caught my attention I never really picked up on before. And that's that when we have the birth of Jesus Christ, a very unique thing happens. We see the exact reflection of what Jesus will later teach throughout his life as he is still laying in the manger as a humble human form baby. And what I mean by that is Jesus is born, the Messiah is born, And who is the people that the angel first tells has been about the Messiah that has been born? The shepherds. And the shepherds come and they see Jesus, and immediately following that, they reflect what God calls shepherds to be. They go and preach the word. And in the situation, do not forget that this is a situation, a nation what they're under that is led by a king that was going to go around and was going to kill any child is 2 years or younger. He was someone that did not want any threats. And so somebody proclaiming the next king coming, he was going to have problems with that. So their life was not necessarily going to be safe just because of them going forth and doing this. And that's where I want to read this specifically. Luke chapter 2, verses 17 and 18 reads this. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told to them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherd said to them. We know Jesus as the good shepherd. But as Jesus came, as God in human flesh came onto this earth, and he was about ready to live out a life to perfectly explain and show how to be a shepherd, God utilized legitimate shepherds once again to be the first to be a reflection of that in the future. Now, is it the full package of exactly everything Jesus says is to be a shepherd in that one instance? No. But we see these shepherds immediately go from a standpoint of shepherding to shepherding God's people. And these people reflect what the good shepherd looks like. Being a shepherd is the foundation of every great leader. And that's when Jesus later comes on and says in Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 16, you are the salt of the earth, but if not the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. And an important aspect is that if for people that do not realize this, we now look at the central symbol of Christianity as the cross, the crucifixion. That is the standpoint upon which we look at Christianity. When people think about the religion or the faith or the relationship, as I like to call it, of Christianity, it's the cross, crucifixion. You see, that wasn't the case, though, for the first 4 centuries. The first 4 centuries, the symbol actually was an anchor, and the anchor was a reflection of the cross. But since they were still being crucified, and Christians were being crucified in that form, they did not want to utilize the cross. But what we found is that actually, for the first 4 centuries, the primary symbol of Christianity was a shepherd. Specifically, when we look at the art world, there is over 300 representations of art that revolve and display Christ as a shepherd. When people thought of the religion and Christianity, shepherding was the very primary thing, the emphasis, even bigger than the crucifixion. Not until later on, and rightfully so, obviously, I think the cross is the most important thing, but we see that the shepherding aspect was the primary emphasis symbol of the entire Christian faith. Therefore, once again, it is primarily shown that while, yes, the crucifixion is the most important thing, that's what gives us to Jesus. But once we are believers, our job is to be a shepherd and follow Jesus and become more and more in the image likeness of Jesus. And to do that means that we must take on the role of being a shepherd. Our foundation needs to be aligned with God, and that stems from becoming a shepherd first and foremost. It can't be the other way around. We must be a leader. We must be a shepherd first before we can be a leader. And then once this foundation has been established of being a shepherd, at that point in time is when those that are called to lead, according to what God has called us to lead, and there's obviously lots of descriptions about the character traits and who should be a leader, who should not be a leader throughout the Bible. But at that point in time, once you are a shepherd, and we're all called to be shepherds, is then that separation point of when we can go from being those that are shepherds to then taking that next step of faith and being a leader for those that call them. And I think that's important because God gives us all gifts as leaders then. For those that are called there, then you take in the different traits of what type of leader you are, the emphasis, the styles, the traits in which you display as a leader. The primary focus, your foundation is to be a shepherd, but then you utilize the other gifts that God calls you to. Now, this is a little bit of a lengthy verse, but this is when Peter talks about exactly what a leader should be. Now, this is in reflection to all shepherds generally speaking, but he primarily is talking to the leaders of a church, the leaders of the community. And so this is what 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 1 through 14 describes a shepherd or a leader to be like. To the elders among you, I appeal as a fellow elder and a witness of Christ's sufferings, who also will share in the glory to be revealed. Be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care, watching over them, not because you must, but because you are willing, as God wants you to be, not pursuing dishonest gain, but eager to serve, not lording it over entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that will never fade away. In the same way, you who are younger, submit yourselves to your elders. All of you, clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, because God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Cast all your anxiety on him, because he cares for you. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings. And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. To him be the power forever and ever. Amen. I read that and I think of all the leaders in our world once again. How many display those traits? How many are truly there for the people themselves and are there to be a good example for the people? How many are there to be somebody that's a living sacrifice to God first and foremost, where you submit underneath the hand of God and you are saying, God, you lead the way. You shepherd my life. But yet, God, you've equipped me with a certain gift, and I will therefore, in return, as you equip me and give me the spirit of you to work in and through me to lead your people then. How many actually have that mindset? And I'm not just talking about America, I'm talking about throughout the entire world. This is a world problem. When we talk about the Christian faith, it's not just bound to the country borderlines of the United States of America or North America or anything you want to classify in that category. It is for the entire world and all of God's people. So that is the imaging and likeness that we have to look at this through. Leaders are to be shepherded and submitted to God, and then equipped to lead his children and people. The dictionary definitions of a shepherd: guide or direct in a particular direction, or a person, another version says, or a person who protects, guides, or watches over a person or group of people. Notice shepherding is not necessarily the full aspect of a leader. You're guiding, you're advising, you're helping, you're leading maybe and pushing them in the right direction. You're protecting, you're willing to be a sacrifice, but you're not necessarily the leader, because a leader then is the action of leading a group of people or an organization. You then are the head in a certain sense. Now, obviously, God's the head above you, but you are the head of these people, and you are to then lead over them. But if that shepherding foundation is not established, then it's going to be a rough time for you to be a leader. Because once you are a leader, it's hard to go back and then become a shepherd. That would be quite the humbling experience, and obviously God can work in and through that. He has the divine hand to do that, but that's not typically how we see him work throughout history. That's, friends, is why a shepherd can be a leader, but a good leader cannot occur first without being a shepherd. And there's no better person to look at of how to be a shepherd than our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, which is why verse of the day today is John chapter 10, verse 11. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. For those of you that are called to be leaders, that have that calling, first make sure that you are ensured that your foundation is as a shepherd. And then you take the next step of faith to be led to what God's called you to and allow him to work in and through you to lead his people. But for everybody, regardless of who you are, as long as you are a brother and sister in Christ, and you have first gone through the most important aspect of the crucifixion and realized that you are a part of the family, that God has forgiven you of your sins and transgressions, that you have now taken on and become a part of the Christian family, you have to become a shepherd. This is not just for a select group of people. We are all called to shepherd people. We're all called to shepherd our fellow brothers and sisters on earth that are just lost sheep that God wants us to go after and pursue. And that might be a sacrifice on your part. That might be needing to protect somebody. That might need to maybe take some extra time to go out and be the light to somebody. But that's the foundation of all believers, is to be a reflection of what Jesus called us to. And Jesus was the ultimate good shepherd, as he called himself. Let that be who we all strive to become more and more like today and every day going forward. And while you evaluate leaders as well, make sure that we can recognize that. Now, I said there's unfortunately not a lot of people out there that are truly good shepherds and are reflecting God. So we have to obviously use discernment to figure out what we're going to go for. And when we look at our bosses at work, when we talk about leaders within the school and education system, we talk about leaders of a nation, we talk about leaders within the sports world, any form of leadership, we need to be able to discern and evaluate when there's not that. And that's a topic I'll get into another time, more specifically, but that's why it's important for us believers to start to truly emphasize the importance of being a shepherd and then growing all of our other traits and abilities that God has bestowed upon us to become the true formation of a leader that God wants us to be. So make sure you use your eyes of discernment, but first and foremost, make sure that we're all called to be shepherds, and so we should all go reflect that in and through our lives. So I appreciate everybody for listening to this segment today on Eternal Echoes, which will always be a segment in each and every single show from Genesis to Revelation. The mission to echo is eternal power. I'm going to take a short break, and I'll see you guys right after this as you guys can reflect and meditate on this scripture and this breakdown today. I'll see you guys in a little bit. From the moment I was born, a ball was in my hands and a deep passion for sports was ignited. My dream was to play the game for as long as possible, but God had other plans. After battling with severe illnesses caused by black mold poisoning for nearly 4 years, I made the difficult decision to let go of my on-court dreams heading into my junior year of high school. However, I was determined to have one last victorious moment as an athlete, and that was achieved on February 9th, 2019, when I ran a marathon at the age of 16. That night, as I took a recovery Epsom salt bath, I felt God place on my heart the idea to start a podcast. Although I didn't know where to begin, the first episode of SchuZ Views dropped on March 11th, 2019. Over the next 1,183 days, more than 600,000 people tuned into 1,056 interviews. Then, on June 6, 2022, my final interview for over a year was released featuring Jameer Young. I never once thought that I'd be off the air for over a year, but the truth is there was something missing in me. At first, I thought creating a website would help fill that void, so I went and put together SchuZ.net, but nothing changed. Throughout the next month, I continued searching for answers, and eventually, God worked in the only way that would have gotten my attention at that point in time. Through something work-related. By the end of July 2022, my parents blessed me with the opportunity to build a studio. However, before breaking ground, the real change began. On August 3rd, 2022, my life changed forever. Once again, I happened to be taking a bath late into the night, and suddenly, an indescribable feeling came upon me. It was a profound urge to open up my Bible and read. I turned to 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and since that night, not a single day has passed without me spending time in the Word. You see, what was missing all along was Jesus. On August 6th, my dad and I began to lay the foundation for the next chapter of my career. Simultaneously, the foundation of who I was created to be was also being laid. Over the years, I had lost sight of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I knew of God, but I didn't know Him, and I certainly was not following or living like Him. But day by day, the new me began to take shape.
My former self's sole priority faded away, and I began to live out the acronym I often talked about, FJTFOE. It stands for First Jesus, then Family Over Everything. God became my everything, and He transformed me entirely. He helped me rediscover my love for family, running, lifting, playing basketball, giving back, the church, and most importantly, Him. This journey began with a craving to nourish my old identity, but God's hand was always in control, rapidly shaping my new identity. As God transformed me, He also grew my relationship with every member of my family. Together they stood by me and contributed to the person I am today. Through it all, Ephesians chapter 3 verse 20 manifested its truth in my life. The blessings I received far exceeded anything I could have imagined. The truth is that God's hand has always been there, but now I'm committed to following His path. Although I may look different, and my heart has undergone a profound change, I am truly blessed to announce the beginning of a new chapter. Starting July 24th, I will be launching my new show, the SchuZ Show, which will air on my YouTube channel every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I can't wait for you guys to join me in this next chapter. I'll see you guys soon, and may God bless you all.
There is a funny aspect about you, and that's the fact that I don't think you necessarily even tried to, but there's been countless times in your brief NBA career already that you've made it viral. You've made memes of yourself, whatever it might be. One of which was in the midst of that 40-point streak. You obviously broke LeBron's record, and you made your comment saying about, well, I'm not really a LeBron guy, I'm a Kobe guy. And I don't think you even intended that to go viral. Now you have that.
Nah, not at all.
There's your Steve Nash moment during the Summer League. We know that aspect. I think that was after the second year. You had a fun, obviously, at one point. You have your branding that you've now done. When you look at all these, like, do you ever intend to expect something to go viral or be funny, or does you just end up happening, and then by the time you get back on your phone, you're like, oh, this already just went down, dang.
Bro, that's crazy. No, not at all. No, because even with my brand, like when a random person asks me, because random people always see like, oh, he's so serious, and I'm just like, bro. And then I say it all the time. Like I say it no matter what. And I said it at one time and it blew up. And I was just like, I mean, I said it. I've been saying it every time. Like somebody asked me that. So then, that blew up. And then the Kobe thing, I was just being honest. I mean, it's no disrespect to LeBron. Obviously, I love it.
Staying consistent, I move with the clock. I'm in the zone, I'm not casting a stone. I'm finna stand on a rock, firm foundation. I got that dog in me, like 101 Dalmatian. I got girl with me, so I know that I'm still finna make it. I'm still finna take it. I hopped in the ring and I'm still going crazy. I cut off the sin like I just got a taper. I walk in the storm and then God gave me favor. I'm still going forward. I just had to lock in the Lord. I knew that I'm finna make it. Though my old self, he got deported. Shout out to the king and I'm finna take it.
Welcome back, everyone, to the SchuZ Show. I'm your host, Zach Shoemaker, as most people know me as SchuZ. And this will be this next segment we're going to get into the show. It's going to be Hardwood Realities, where the raw authenticity of the hardwood echoes truth. So we're going to get to a couple of basketball topics today. First and foremost, I got to get into the Olympics right now. 2024 Olympics are continuing to be on their way, and USA Basketball has moved to 2-0. Yesterday, they defeated South Sudan 103-86. They pretty much dominated from start to finish. There was a few runs that South Sudan had. I don't want to say they dominated, actually, because it's more so South Sudan kind of hung around. But I think that everyone knew who was going to win that game from start to finish. All around, overall, great performance. However, I want to highlight one guy specifically, Bam Adebayo. I think this is a guy, when we talk about the great centers in the game, and Bam, quite frankly, I don't even like considering him. I know Riyad was on last year when we talked about his positions, and Bam's not a center. He is somebody that is versatile. He might run the center spot because he can guard those guys, but Bam has proven his value once again in the Olympics. He was here in the 2021 Olympics. He's back this time around. And we get to the NBA regular seasons, and he gets credit. He's an all-star and all these things, but I don't think we give Bam Adebayo the respect that he deserves. Bam Adebayo is somebody that, quite frankly, might even say is almost like a superstar role player, in the sense that there is not one thing on the court that he's lacking. He does anything that helps his team win. If he needs to take a number two-ish role behind a guy like Jimmy Butler, he can do that. If he needs to come off the bench in the Olympics, he can do that. And he can go out there and have 18 points and 7 rebounds. He can defend at all 5 positions. He is one of the most versatile guys that is honestly a guy that he could legitimately fit onto each and every single NBA team. And I said that I don't think he gets enough respect I don't think he gets the respect that he deserves. This is a guy that, sure, you want to put Jokic above him. Okay, I agree with that. Embiid, even, sure. Anthony Davis, whatever the case may be. But at the same time, is there a guy that is more interchangeable than a guy like Bam Adebayo in terms of you can put him on any NBA team and he's going to thrive and play at an all-star level no matter where or what role you put him in? He is one of the most underrated stars in the NBA today, and he is showing once again how valuable he is. Coming off the bench, leads the team in scoring, leads the team in rebounding. He is a defensive menace. He is a guy that does not ever give up. He is always there. He brings high energy. He's a great teammate. He's a great guy overall. I think that Bam Adebayo is one of the most undervalued guys in the entire NBA. And I quite frankly have always been a fan of his game, but I think in the past couple games and seeing him throughout the exhibition games, he deserves a lot more credit than he gets in the NBA world today. And so that's my thoughts on Bam. Another big headline there is can we just give a shout out to the guys on this team that are buying in? When these guys all signed up, there were 12 guys that helped put together debatably the greatest team ever assembled, if not at least one of the greatest teams ever formed. 10 of these guys have day in, day out for the vast majority, if not their entire lifestyle, been labeled as superstars. Guys that are going to be able to score 25 points per game or more. They have the ball in the hands constantly. The only guy that's not is Derek White. Is a guy that's a great role player, but he's ultimately like a star role player in a sense. And then Jrue Holiday is a star. Made no mistake about that. I'm just saying he's not the guy that has the ball in his hands 24/7. He's obviously a star though as well. But when you have all these guys buy in, it's tough. Steve Kerr said, I can only really play 10 guys. Now, yesterday he had 11 guys throughout the rotation, but generally speaking, 10 guys is all that's going to really fit in this rotation. And so you're talking about having two superstars not playing the game. A lot of guys don't want to do that. That's not easy for anybody. But yet we see a guy in Jason Tatum go one game, not even playing in the entire game, next game starting, and he goes out there and holds down his role, plays a significant role in the team, and is a solid player for them. These guys could all easily mope and complain about it and not be happy about the role that they've been given. But they've all bought into this team. That's why they're flourishing right now. They're 2-0. This team is drastically better than last year's 2021's Olympic team. This is a team that I'm excited to see what's going to happen when they get to the tournament. They're already officially into the quarterfinals now. But I just want to give massive props to them. And the guy last game was Joel Embiid. Steve Kerr is cooking up an incredible game plan right now. I think we need to give credit to that coaching staff. That coaching staff is just as elite as the players are. Having the mindset of saying, okay, you're going to have to sit down this game. You're not going to play. Here's the situation we got right now. This team's going to be smaller. We don't need big guys. But Embiid's going to be needed in the next game. And ultimately, whenever we play a team like France or we play a team, any one of those really European teams that are big man centered, he's going to need to play a pivotal role for that team. But these guys are buying in. I think we need to give them a lot of credit for what they're doing because it is honestly incredible to see that happening and unfolding. This Team USA team is stacked, is loaded. And like I said, they're already into the quarterfinals. The next game doesn't really matter, but at the same time, I think they're going to go win that game by a lot. And I'm excited to see how deep this team is. I think this team will come away with gold. The way that they're playing has been incredible. A couple other NBA news. Jarrett Allen, he signs a 3-year, nearly $91 million extension. The Cavs have locked in on this team now. Evan Mobley got his large extension. Jarrett Allen's now locked in. Donovan Mitchell got his large extension. This team's Darius Garland's already locked in. This team's got a lot of good pieces right now. They're loading up. I don't know how far they're going to go. It's going to take I think a large part of this is that we know what Donovan Mitchell's already capable of. We know Jarrett Allen plays his role regardless. The two guys I'm really looking at and seeing are two guys that I think have tremendous potential. Just will they have the opportunity to flourish in this offense? I think Evan Mobley is a guy you could base your offense around to a certain extent. We already know he's one of the premier defenders in the entire NBA. And so I think he's been limited a lot on the offensive end, and I think his potential is a lot more if given the opportunity. Now, he was injured a lot last season in what was supposed to be his mega breakout season, but the Cavs obviously have full faith. They gave him the full max extension, rookie scale max extension, I should clarify. And so I think if he can take that jump and they have the right situation, and obviously the coaching staff did change now, which I think is great. If they can get him to play in the way that he's capable of playing in and get him the full offensive opportunities to flourish, and you get a guy that would potentially be your best player on the team, I think that would drastically change his team's hopes, and this automatically becomes a legitimate contender. Right now, it's a very, very, very good team. Or are they a contender yet? It's hard to say on that regards. But that's what I got for them. And then the other news we have today, Gordon Hayward officially announces that he is retiring from the NBA after 14 years. Obviously, he's not a Hall of Fame player, but he is one heck of a player. He's an NBA All-Star, and his career got derailed because of the gruesome injury that we all were witness to. One of the most significant freak injuries, we should say, ever to happen in the NBA court. And so he had great memories. His time at Utah was sensational. As an NBA All-Star, he went to Boston to team up with Kyrie Irving and a young Jason Tatum, young Jaylen Brown. It didn't work out well. He goes out to Charlotte and then ends up in Oklahoma City last year to end the season. And obviously he wasn't himself anymore. And it's always tough when you're a guy that plays at such a high level and you just can't reach those capabilities anymore. And then you look at your bank account and it's well off. It's hard for you to continue to buy in. And so for him, he had an incredible career. He's got generational wealth. He is a great overall player, a great locker room, a great high character guy. And he had quite the NBA career that hopefully won't go unforgotten by fans overall, because he was a great player, but he officially calls it quits today. And so obviously a shout out to Gordon Hayward for what he was able to accomplish throughout his career over a long 14-year NBA career. And so that was how we're going to wrap up today's Hardwood Realities, where the raw authenticity of the hardwood echoes truth. So I got an interview with Elijah Pierce will be coming up quite soon. Depending on whether or not it's going to be right after this next break, we'll see. But it's either going to be his interview or we're going to get into combat right after this in terms of my segment we're going to get into. So appreciate everyone for tuning in once again. I'll see you guys in a few minutes after this break. All right, God bless.
From the moment I was born, a ball was in my hands and a deep passion for sports was ignited. My dream was to play the game for as long as possible, but God had other plans. After battling with severe illnesses caused by black mold poisoning for nearly 4 years, I made the difficult decision to let go of my on-court dreams heading into my junior year of high school. However, I was determined to have one last victorious moment as an athlete, and that was achieved on February 9th, 2019, when I ran a marathon at the age of 16. That night, as I took a recovery Epsom salt bath, I felt God place on my heart the idea to start a podcast. Although I didn't know where to begin, the first episode of SchuZ Views dropped on March 11th, 2019. Over the next 1,183 days, more than 600,000 people tuned into 1,056 interviews. Then, on June 6, 2022, my final interview for over a year was released featuring Jameer Young. I never once thought that I'd be off the air for over a year, but the truth is there was something missing in me. At first, I thought creating a website would help fill that void, so I went and put together SchuZ.net, but nothing changed. Throughout the next month, I continued searching for answers, and eventually, God worked in the only way that would have gotten my attention at that point in time. Through something work-related. By the end of July 2022, my parents blessed me with the opportunity to build a studio. However, before breaking ground, the real change began. On August 3rd, 2022, my life changed forever. Once again, I happened to be taking a bath late into the night, and suddenly, an indescribable feeling came upon me. It was a profound urge to open up my Bible and read. I turned to 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and since that night, not a single day has passed without me spending time in the Word. You see, what was missing all along was Jesus. On August 6th, my dad and I began to lay the foundation for the next chapter of my career. Simultaneously, the foundation of who I was created to be was also being laid. Over the years, I had lost sight of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I knew of God, but I didn't know Him, and I certainly was not following or living like Him. But day by day, the new me began to take shape. My former self's sole priority faded away, and I began to live out the acronym I often talked about, FJTFOE. It stands for First Jesus, then Family Over Everything. God became my everything, and He transformed me entirely. He helped me rediscover my love for family, running, lifting, playing basketball, giving back, the church, and most importantly, Him. This journey began with a craving to nourish my old identity, but God's hand was always in control, rapidly shaping my new identity. As God transformed me, He also grew my relationship with every member of my family. Together they stood by me and contributed to the person I am today. Through it all, Ephesians chapter 3 verse 20 manifested its truth in my life. The blessings I received far exceeded anything I could have imagined. The truth is that God's hand has always been there, but now I'm committed to following His path. Although I may look different, and my heart has undergone a profound change, I am truly blessed to announce the beginning of a new chapter. Starting July 24th, I will be launching my new show, the SchuZ Show, which will air on my YouTube channel every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I can't wait for you guys to join me in this next chapter. I'll see you guys soon, and may God bless you all.
There is a funny aspect about you, and that's the fact that I don't think you necessarily even tried to, but there's been countless times in your brief NBA career already that you've made it viral. You've made memes of yourself, whatever it might be. One of which was in the midst of that 40-point streak. You obviously broke LeBron's record, and you made your comment saying about, well, I'm not really a LeBron guy, I'm a Kobe guy. And I don't think you even intended that to go viral. Now you have that.
Nah, not at all.
There's your Steve Nash moment during the Summer League. We know that aspect. I think that was after the second year. You had a fun, obviously, at one point. You have your branding that you've now done. When you look at all these, like, do you ever intend to expect something to go viral or be funny, or does you just end up happening, and then by the time you get back on your phone, you're like, oh, this already just went down, dang.
Bro, that's crazy. No, not at all. No, because even with my brand, like when a random person asks me, because you know, random people always see like, oh, he's so serious, and I'm just like, bro. And then I say it all the time. Like I say it no matter what. And I said it at one time and it blew up. And I was just like, I mean, I said it. I've been saying it every time. Like somebody asked me that. So that blew up. And then the Kobe thing, I was just being honest. I mean, it's no disrespect to LeBron. Obviously, I love looking at LeBron playing stuff like that. You know, he's done a lot for the game and stuff. But it's just me being a fan of basketball. Me growing up with Kobe. Just, you know, my love for Kobe is like unmatched. So, you know, really that part. So really everything I say, I'm just like, I mean, I'm not really intending to go viral. I'm just speaking what's on my mind at that point. So, you know, if it goes viral, it goes viral.
Which one of the things that's happened so far, maybe even one that I've not listed yet, was the most surprising to you? Like, by the time you got on your phone, maybe even someone else came and told you about it, where you're like, dang, that really went viral?
The branding. My brand, honestly. I was never expecting that to go viral. Because I always said it. I always said the same thing. No matter what somebody asked me that, I always said it. And never went viral before. And then that one particular day, I woke up, and then the very next day or a few hours later, I don't really remember, because we was playing Philly when I said it. We was playing Philly, and then when I said it, it took off, and I was like, oh man, I was not expecting that at all.
if you were to have the ball in your hands the whole game, you're the guy for a whole season, 82-game season, how much do you think you're averaging?
Ball in my hand, 25, no doubt. Easy. 25, no doubt, easy. And that's just me knowing my ability and knowing what I can bring every night. Because I feel like, because I see like the little stats on Twitter, some games, they be like, when Cam Thomas plays this certain amount of minutes, he averages 30, or he plays, this amount of games with this amount of minutes, he averages 25. So I feel like if I have the ability to play with the ball in my hand, make the decisions, all that stuff, I feel like I can average 25 points a game easy, no doubt.
if you were to have the ball in your hands the whole game, you're the guy for a whole season, 82-game season, how much do you think you're averaging?
Ball in my hand, 25, no doubt. Easy. 25, no doubt, easy. And that's just me knowing my ability and knowing what I can bring every night. Because I feel like, because I see like the little stats on Twitter, some games, they be like, when Cam Thomas plays this certain amount of minutes, he averages 30, or he plays, this amount of games with this amount of minutes, he averages 25. So I feel like if I have the ability to play with the ball in my hand, make the decisions, all that stuff, I feel like I can average 25 points a game easy, no doubt.
Staying consistent, I move with the clock. I'm in the zone, I'm not casting a stone. I'm finna stand on a rock, firm foundation. I got that dog in me, like 101 Dalmatian. I got girl with me, so I know that I'm still finna make it. I'm still finna take it. I hopped in the ring and I'm still going crazy. I cut off this shit like I just got a taper. I walk in the storm and then God gave me favor. Staying consistent, I move with the clock. I'm in the zone, I'm not casting a stone. I'm finna stand on a rock, firm foundation. I got that dog in me, like 101 Dalmatian. I got girl with me, so I know that I'm still finna make it. I'm still finna take it. I hopped in the ring and I'm still going crazy. I cut off this shit like I just got a taper. I walk in the storm and then God gave me favor. I'm still going forward, I just had to lock in the Lord. I knew that I'm finna make it. Doing my old self, he got deported. Shout out to the king and I'm finna take it.
Welcome back, everyone, to the SchuZ Show. As I said right before the break, I'm going to be able to have a very special guest joining me right now. It's Elijah the Wolf Pierce. He's 19-2, 16 KOs. He has a fight coming up real soon, and that's Elijah Pierce. So, Elijah, appreciate you taking time to come on today, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate you for reaching out, brother.
Absolutely, man. So, I was just talking about it now. You've got a fight. It was rescheduled originally. You got it coming up now in just a few weeks. Take us through the mindset going through yourself right now.
Man, just, it's honestly, same shit, different toilet. I walk this. I've been living this lifestyle for a while. You know what I'm saying? I've been a professional going on 7-8 years. Even before when I was in the amateurs, I made it to Olympic trials. I've done some credible things beforehand. So, this is nothing new to me. So it's just another day at the office, and we're getting ready to clock in soon. And I'm just getting prepared mentally, obviously physically, and just I'm ready to dominate and do my thing. And show people why I deserve to be world champ in the 122-pound super bantamweight division.
So you obviously are looking real good right now. I know at first the scheduled fight was for June 28th, and now it's got pushed back a little bit. You feeling all good now? Feel back to yourself 100% now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just me and mishaps, man. Excuse me, my bad. Hold on,
All good.
Make sure. Okay. But yeah, like I said, so damn, I feel like I lost my train of thought. What you ask, bro? My
I was
bad.
just saying you look pretty good. You feel
Um, I don't know. I mean, it's never really been an issue for me. I guess just because, like I said, I've been doing it so long. It's just literally a shift in mindset. It's just more so. Okay, we got a week. We got a month left. It's time to go ahead and kind of turn it up. Make sure we peak out and get ready. I mean, all the work is done in the gym and it reflects on fight night. So what it's all about.
All right, so walk us through this now. You have an upcoming fight, and it's going to be one of the tougher competitions you've had recently. Now, Sam Martin, you're going to be fighting. Take us through your game plan. How are you preparing for him, and what's your expectations for what's going to go down on August 30th?
Well, he's nothing I've never seen before. Like I said,
Sure.
I've been around the block plenty of times. I did spar several world champions. I done been in the ring with a lot of the best. So, as far as him, I know he's a tough competitor. He's a little rugged, and he stands right there. He's right there in front of you, and which is. So for somebody like me who is a footwork specialist, I'll really be able to utilize a lot of my God-given abilities. So that's what I'm looking to do. And I think what really separates this fight from some of my previous fights is that my mindset has changed a tad. I faced a little adversity in my last fight, and so I got by that I mean I had got knocked down or whatever
Yeah.
in the second round, and then I got back up to stop the guy in the fourth. So and really that kind of was somewhat based off of me being a little bit me kind of taking them lightly, but
Okay.
also it was about me focusing on the wrong things. I was looking for the knockout early.
Mm.
I had predicted I would knock him out first round, so I wanted to make good on that. And it was just more so one of those things where you kind of gotta you have to be more mature at this point in your career because I am a seasoned veteran at this point. I'm 21 fights deep, and nobody that I face is going to be a slouch
Yeah.
whatsoever. So there's no need to. Even though I could surpass them in skill or whatever the case may be. There's having that type of mindset is always the wrong mindset. So moving forward, this fight, I just want to have fun. That's just my main focal point. Is that I want to just have fun, enjoy the moment, enjoy the training, everything that I've done to get to this point. It's been a long road coming, and I'm like this far away from a world title. I'm ranked number 3 in the WBA, number 7 in the WBO, 11 IBF, and 16 in WBC, which I was previously number 10 or 11 in the WBC, but due to politics stuff or whatever, that'll be rectified soon. But so I'm right there. So all I gotta do is continue to stay focused, and I'll be champion at 122 very soon.
That's what I kind of want to go into and ask you about because we look at this division. 122's got a lot of big names. We obviously know who's up at the top of the division, but there's a lot of names that I know typical casual boxing fans may not pay as much attention to. Since it's not the heavyweights, might not be the bigger groups, but there's a lot of depth here, and there's a lot of guys that we see that could be enticing matchups for yourself after this next fight or in the very near future. How long do you think it is until we see you start going up against the guys? We see guys like TJ, we see guys like Goodman and Neary and DePauli's. When can we see possibly some of these big fights possibly come into fruition for yourself?
Oh, most definitely. Either if not, I would say by early next year for sure. By early 2025 for sure. Probably one of them would probably be my first fight of 2025. I mean, like I said, I'm right there in contention for the WBA title. So,
Yep.
my plan is to basically once I win this fight, I'll see what the landscape looks like. For the later part of this year, maybe like around November, December. See who's available to fight. If I can't fight one of them by the end of this year, then maybe just have another stay busy fight. Who knows? And then by early next year, obviously in the way we'll have vacated the title. So
Yeah.
it'll be up for grabs. So, my goal would basically just to make myself the mandatory for it, and put myself in position to challenge whoever, which will most likely be MJ. MJ is number 1 right now in the WBA, so
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get him for the WBA title.
So you kind of just answered my question I had set for you then. So if you could pick any of these guys, obviously I'm just wrapped in that group too. Is he kind of the guy that you're kind of looking at and saying, that's the fight I want right now? That's the realistic fight that I'm going for next if I can pick anybody?
Well, I mean, any of these guys, really, it really doesn't
Sure.
matter. I just know I want to be champion before I move up. Once I solidify myself as a champion, that's a lifelong goal that I fulfilled. That's what I've dedicated my life to, is being a champion. So once I've done that, from then on, my mindset kind of alters just a tad bit again. It's more so, okay, now I'm a champion, regardless of what anybody say. I'm in the history books for life. So from then on, all I care about is making the biggest and best fights possible. From then on, and then obviously, I want to, be a multi-divisional champion, of course.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's all going to still coincide with me fighting the best and getting the biggest fights that I possibly can with all these tough competitors.
So you're at 122 right now. We know you originally started up a little bit higher, and that's obviously where some of your losses came, your 2 losses there. Is 122 really, really you want to solidify yourself for the foreseeable future, or is something moving up potentially in 1, 2, 3 years, whatever it might be, something that is on the table for yourself?
Well, I'm definitely looking to move up. Like I said, I'm champion, then I'll probably move up right after that. And if
Okay.
not right after that, I don't know. It just you just never know. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
A different opportunity might present itself to where I might be able to unify at 22, right back to back. You just never know. But but as far as my thinking right now, like my plan is to, like I said, get this WBA title. Once I win a WBA title, then I'll probably end up moving up and then going to 26, and then trying to see what the landscape is there. And I've got my eye on Stephen Fulton. I really want to fight him. Me and him, we've had some previous dealings with each other, so I like to settle that in the ring. And of course, when anyway goes up, he would be the ultimate target. If he ends up accomplishing the feat of being, what's that, 3 or 4 times undisputed?
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's the one guy we have seen with you and Fulton. I've gone back and forth. I know that one video went viral a little bit ago.
Yeah.
What would that be like for yourself when it's a guy that, obviously you get lined up with some guys you probably don't have much of a relationship with prior to, but you talk about a guy that's a domestic fighter, a guy that's in the United States that you've had back and forth stuff with. Is there anything that goes a little bit different when you prepare for a fight like that?
Yeah, I just think passion-wise, it just makes you that much more driven, that much more, because of the trash talk. Like, I'm not a person who talks just to talk. Everything that I've ever said, all the trash talk that I've ever done, I've always backed it up, and I would, I would assume this would be no different. You know what I'm saying? I would plan for it to be no different than. I'm always gonna stand on business and stand on my word. Always 10 toes.
All right, so you kind of broke it down a little bit ago, but I do want to go into your last fight because that was something that, and you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong here, but I felt like you kind of came out of the gate. It was almost as if it was a little bit rushed to a certain extent. It wasn't necessarily as calm, and you weren't fully in control. I think you won round 1, then you get the knockdown, but something the flip kind of switched. And once you got yourself, you got a little bit more composed and all that. You turned into a guy that was pretty much unstoppable. I thought it was a guy that you were in 100% control, and from that point on, we're talking about 2 rounds, less than 2 rounds. You end up knocking him out. Would you say that's kind of an accurate assessment, or how would you kind of perceive that last fight?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and really, like, people always kind of like to dramatize things and make them more than what they were. To be honest, even with the knockdown, I wasn't hurt. Like, I wasn't out on my feet. I wasn't about to get knocked out or none of that. Like, the punch, I don't know. It was like, it was surprising because, well. See, I'm just not a person who likes to make excuses. But end of the day, I did have a bad weight cut or whatever, and obviously we all know that if you have bad weight cuts, a lot of times they can affect your brain. And so I've never been hurt by a shot like that ever. Like I'll spar with middleweights, welterweights. We spar hard too. I've never been hurt like that with a simple right hand. So I didn't exactly know what happened, but really it was just like it took my legs away. It made my legs kind of like go numb. But I didn't really feel it like mentally. Like I wasn't dazed. I wasn't like I could see everything. That's why I was still dodging the punch after, when I got hit. Because I could see clearly fine. Everything was fine. It's just my legs kind of went to sleep. So I don't know. It was weird, but after I got my legs back under me, I shook back after that round. I stayed defensively sound, and once I got back, it was over with. I just pretty much had a shift in mindset, and I was just like, it pissed me off. Of course, I got knocked down. I was embarrassed more than anything. I was embarrassed. It's my
Yep.
hometown. I was like, okay, all right, now I'm about to whoop your ass. Like you. And so I just got up and literally that was my focus. I was like, I'm about to stop you. And then once I dropped him with the left hand right hook combination, I knew it was over right there. So I was just I just went to work and then boom, we got him out of there.
All right, so another aspect about you, I said in the intro, you're 19-2, and we know that in boxing, so many people put an emphasis on the zero for some reason. And obviously, yes, for a guy like if you're the greatest of all time like Floyd, that obviously is great. But a lot of people put too much of an emphasis on, in my opinion, on that aspect. And I know you've talked about that before, but I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit on that regards because a lot of guys will see that 1 or that 2 go in their loss column, and they end up kind of getting a little mental with it. It ends up becoming something that distracts them, might mess with the confidence. For you, it appears it hasn't done that to you at all. How have you been able to kind of say, you know what, yeah, I've got that 2 next to my name, but I'm going to keep prevailing and I'm going to become the best I can still become?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I know where the losses. Well, I don't call them losses necessarily. I call them lessons. I know where the lessons stem from. You know what I'm saying? Like my first, like I said, as you mentioned earlier, I fought at heavier weight classes than I was supposed to early on in my career. I'm walking around 140, 138 pounds, and I'm fighting at 35 and 30. I mean, I'm barely dropping any weight. You know what I'm saying? I never knew about the landscape of people dropping hella weight and all that stuff to get to lower weight classes, all that stuff. So I didn't know about that. So, you know, that's when I ended up taking my first loss. I fought a guy extremely way bigger than me. I mean, dude was easily probably 160 on fight night, and I probably weighed in 138, 140. Like I said, so I was just overmatched as far as the strength. It wasn't. We still had a competitive fight. I was just outmatched strength wise. And then my second loss was just due to personal matters. If you're not of sound mind outside the ring, you can't expect to be a sound mind inside the ring. So I was going through a divorce during that time, and it was it affected me a lot. I'm a family man. I'm very family oriented. Anybody who knows me will tell you that. Like I said, I'm a father first, and you know, just all the whole nine, man. So of course, like I said, that was a big distraction for me. So I took a loss that shouldn't have happened to a fighter I could have easily beat, and we still fought to a majority decision. So moving forward from those lessons and whatnot, people can say whatever want to say. That doesn't take away from my pedigree as a fighter.
Yep.
Those who know me, like I said, even in the amateurs, a lot of these top guys that, a lot of the fans that they love, they know me. They know my name. They know what I've done. They've seen me around, seen me at the tournaments, and so on and so forth. So, anybody who gets in there with me, they know I'm not no easy win. They might try to talk that talk, because it might be the thing to do to, I guess, to feel like they get under my skin, but it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, look what I've been able to accomplish being having my 2 defeats. Now I'm practically the face of overtime boxing.
Yep.
Shout out to overtime, and I'm Viva Promotions first American fighter. Shout out Viva, and my promoter Brendan Gibbons. You know what I'm saying? So I'm making it happen regardless.
Now, in terms of the overall mindset for boxers in general now, for boxers out there that's going to have a loss at some point, what's your advice to them? And do you think also there's too much of a kind of power behind people saying and too much of an impact, I should say, in terms of having that zero in boxing?
My advice would be it's my favorite quote. I say it all the time. No matter the conditions in the wilderness, a wolf will never eat grass. And and pretty much the whole direct meaning to that is continue to be relentless in their approach, regardless of what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't ever let anyone deter your path of whatever it is that you want. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that was just my whole mindset before. When I was crafting crafting the wolf, who I am, what I'm saying? Like that was, I said, I'm not gonna let these losses keep me from being who I was destined to be in boxing. You know what I'm saying? They were mistakes and they happened. I can't cry over spilled milk. You get to keep pushing. That's the only thing I can do. I mean, like I said, I might lose. I might have lost those 2 times, but I haven't. I've fought 10 or 11 times after that, and I haven't lost again.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, I mean, it is what it is, and eventually I would like to avenge those losses too. At that, but that'll be sometime in the future, hopefully. But as far as the landscape of just how people view the whole undefeated stuff, I mean that's just a Florida effect, and we all know that. I mean,
Yeah.
Florida, he pretty much built his whole persona on being undefeated, and like I said, Floyd is a great businessman. In the end of the day,
Yeah.
no matter how people may feel about him personally or whatever, I've always called him the TSE. I know he likes to go by the TBE. I've always called him the TSE. He's the smartest. I mean, he's the smartest fighter in boxing. It's debatable whether people want to call him the best or whatever. Like that's opinionated, but yeah, nobody can take away his genius of what he's done for his career and how he basically took control and made himself who he is and made himself the most. The most wealthiest boxer, in history.
Yep.
It is what it is, man. But at the same time, PF fans definitely got to get out of that. It's really a disservice to the fighters
Mm-hmm.
more than anything, because like I said, we risk our lives out there, man. We train day in and day out. We really put it all on the line for you guys entertainment and to provide a better future for ourselves, and when we deserve more respect than what we're given, especially if we take a loss or if something doesn't go in the manner of which we want. Like I said, even me getting knocked down, of course I got a lot of backlash from that. But at the end of the day, I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, because a lot of casual fans they basically think, you're only as good as your last fight. So
Yeah.
I guarantee come August 30th, when I put on the performance that I put on, I guarantee a lot of those same people who was hating on the last fight or whatever, or who was even wishing my demise, they'll probably be, either they on the same tip or they gonna become fans. And either way, it's fine for me because you tuned in regardless.
So I want to go back a little bit to hear a little bit more about your story. So when we talk about you in terms of just growing up, when was it the point that it clicked for yourself when you said, you know what, I want to be a boxer. Like I want to be this. This is my lifestyle. This is what I want to do. I want to go pursue this with my life. When was that for yourself, and what made you get that decision?
Oh, it was my father. Like I said, my father, he was a former kickboxer and martial artist. Back in the about late '80s, early '90s, and whatnot. So, he just, it was just more so a bonding experience between father and son. He wanted to teach his son how to fight. And give him, share one of his gifts with me. And ultimately it just kind of cultivated itself into what it is today. I never thought I was gonna be a boxer, to be honest. It just, I had a very strong admiration for my father, and just being tough and manly masculinity, and like I'm a huge fan of Wesley Snipes and Michael Jai White. Like I'm huge fans, like huge. So like I used to always watch. They were like basically the first black superheroes. Blade and Spawn and whatnot. So I used to watch that all the time, and that just I don't know. It just I always had a fascination with fighting. So
Mm.
I don't know. So during my school years, I was actually playing basketball. I was a very good basketball player, very good. But I'm not very tall in stature. I'm about 5'8", 5'9". You
Mm-hmm.
know, high school I was even shorter. I was about 5'5", 5'6". So I knew and I couldn't really jump high either. I didn't have an extraordinary jumping ability. So I pretty much was like, well, it's fun as much as I love basketball. My father, he just told me, he was like, I know you love basketball, but let's be realistic. You probably not gonna go to the NBA. If anything, you might can, secure yourself a scholarship for school. If that's what you choose to do, that's cool.
Mhm.
But he just thought I should box. He was like, I think you should box. I think it'll be a better avenue for you. You'll be more so in control of your destiny with that. Since it's not a team sport, it's a self sport.
Yep.
I agree. I thought about it pretty hard, and I agree with him. I was like that logically, it made sense. And so for my sophomore year, I put down the basketball and picked back up, and I picked up the gloves full time, and I've been doing it ever since.
That's a huge thing because we see it a lot in the boxing and honestly all different sports and MMA fighting and whatnot. Is the father being your coach, being your trainer, being all these different aspects. And I think that's a unique thing because you don't see that in too many other sports. It's like a rare anomaly if that happens. You
Yeah.
got to have that tight bond where you go and your job is really working alongside your dad. How special is that? And what's it like just being able to live out your life with your dad?
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, especially just because, me and my father, we've always had like an extremely close relationship. Like we're very, very close. Like I said, that's like one of my best friends. So, just having that bond and having something that even bonds us even more together, it's great. And also, if I can, provide a means to support my father, it's like we're really going hand in hand. He's the one who taught me boxing, you know what I'm saying? But
Hmm.
it's like basically we're giving to each other. It's like if I can also become a champion and be able to give him the opportunity to be on that stage with me, that's even that much better. And just really, like I said, I'm extremely family oriented. So really, I'm just like close with my entire family. Like it's really a family affair
Hmm.
within my team for the most part. I mean, like I said, my father's my head coach. My father, Andy Pierce, and then my bonus father, or stepdad or whatever. He's my co-manager.
Hmm.
We're extremely close as well. He's exceptional. Obviously, me and my mother, we're very, very close. Like I said, then my other manager, he's from Bulgaria. He actually found me off the internet, and
Hmm.
he changed my life after those two sad losses. He's the one who gave me an opportunity to get my life and my career back on track. So ultimately, I give him the most gratitude because, like I said, he didn't have to believe in me or take a chance on me, but he did, and look where we are.
So I know when you had your walkout, the overtime broadcasting crew was talking about there was a time that you were almost considering ready to quit boxing, move on at one point or another.
Yep.
Walk us through that because I think that's something that a lot of people say, especially when you're trying to talk about. You're always positive, you always have an outlook and saying you want to be great, but you obviously went through a point where that wasn't always a certain thing in your mindset. Take us to that time of life for yourself.
Like I said, it was after that second loss. I took
Hmm.
about, like I said, I took a 2 year hiatus, and I just really had to find myself again. I had to see where my priorities lied, and just I had to build back up that confidence. That's like I said, that's kind of why I reconstructed and I changed my name. 'Cause I used to go by Sweet Pea.
Hmm.
That was my name that I was known throughout the amateurs by. But I just felt like I outgrew it to an extent because of the trauma that I had went through during that time. Like I said, I went through a divorce, other personal matters, and just a lot. I went through a lot of stuff during that time. So
Hmm.
it was just me having to really buckle down and cultivate how I was going to come back into the game, and I was just everything was genuine and pure. That's kind of what I guess I can appreciate about it the most. Like I feel like the Wolf, the WXXLF. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something that really resonates with me, just because of my kinship to the Wolf. You know what I'm saying? And what it represents for me. And a lot of people they wonder and question why I spell it the way I do.
Hmm.
WXXLF. Obviously a wolf is predatory. It hunts for what for its food. It's relentless in its approach, and then
Hmm.
also the triple X. It stands for unpredictability. You know, I don't know if you ever seen a bottle of like chemical X or whatever, anything like that, but you know what I'm saying? It just stands for unpredictability, and you never know exactly what you're gonna get when you step in the ring with Elijah Pierce. You know what I'm saying? I can beat you a multitude of different ways. You know, I pride myself on being multifaceted. You know what I'm saying? Like I can box, I can bang, I can counterpunch, I can sharpshoot. You know, I can angle fight. Like I said, just whatever is needed from me in a match. I'm sure that.
Now, you look at your family as you talked about, and it's obviously a massive thing. But one thing I saw a video about you was that you talked about obviously not being a father, how much more that's motivated you and pushed you now. And so you talked about growing up, you started playing or started participating in boxing, and that kind of became your passion when you were a sophomore in high school. What was the impact of now becoming a father? How much more did that motivate you going forward now?
I mean, really, that became pretty much like the biggest motivation. I mean, now you know I'm no longer responsible for just my life. I'm responsible for this little girl's life. You know, so my daughter, she just became like the end all for me. You know, it was like, okay, well, I have to provide for her. Like, there's no excuses. There's no ifs ands or buts about it. You know, so that was just the driving force right there. You know, she my everything. And you know, now I'm blessed and fortunate enough to have another child on the way. So
Mm.
I'm thinking, you know, I don't know. I got high hopes. So I'm thinking it'll be my son. So we'll see. I'll find out. I think if I'm not mistaken, like next week, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, so hopefully, you know, everything goes well with that, and you know, like I said, and that happens, and it would be great to have, you know, both sides and everything. But
Hmm.
yeah, man. But like I said, just being a father in general is it's the greatest achievement that I've been blessed enough to, you know, to have so far. And then, you know, I've also uh I'm just, I don't know, man. It's just a real feeling.
First of all, man, congratulations on that too. But I also just got to say that when you look at the decision you made, though, it was very interesting because overtime boxing comes around the corner and it's new, it's brand new. Obviously, nobody knew what was going to happen from it. You committed to that, and you said earlier you probably are, and I think you are the face of overtime boxing now. What made you kind of get the decision to say, you know what, I want to join this? Like, I believe in this. This is the right stage for me at this point in my life where I can go elevate myself. Why did you choose overtime boxing?
Well, okay. Well, it was two things because I mean there were a couple other major promotions that were looking to sign me, but it's like they were all, you know, the offers were all kind of somewhat similar. But the thing that really stood out to me from overtime was that one, when I even had the opportunity to fight on their card just for the first, before I even signed with them, they
Hmm.
were so hospitable, and I mean they were just gracious. I love that. Like I love how they treated the fighters. I mean treated us like we were special. You know, like we were celebrities, and I just appreciated that type of attention. That was awesome. And so from then on, I was already in good standings with them after meeting the managers and you know the head guys in charge. You know, they were all great guys. You know, shout out Britton Harden and Brandon Rose. You know, them guys are great. And so pretty much what solidified it for me was just the fact that one after I won, you know, and we started the negotiation process. I started looking at you know, kind of the future, because I knew there would be a big thing in my hometown. One, you know, I'm in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, and that's where
Hmm.
we're based. So I was like, okay, well, that's pretty much giving me a platform at home to build and make myself even that much bigger at home, which I feel like is a very prominent thing that, you know, an athlete needs. They need a home base. They need the fan base. You know, that's important. So I thought that was great. And then on top of that, like I said, being that they are new, I knew that they were going to be successful based off of their achievements with basketball. You know how they ended up getting two players from the draft and everything into the NBA. I mean that's huge.
Hmm.
So I just have belief in their ability to be successful in boxing as well. Considering there's not many big platforms here, so since that was the case, I was like, why wouldn't I want to be put myself at the front of that platform at home? You know, and that's only going to push my personal agenda even that much further. So it just made the most sense to me in regards to the other promotions. I'd rather build with somebody and it be like a genuine relationship as opposed to trying to go to the big company where I'm just as expendable as the next guy.
Yeah. So when we talk about going to another fight where you possibly can go challenge one of those other guys we talked about earlier, how's it going to work overall with overtime then? Is that a situation where you kind of just go your separate ways for that one fight, or is that something where it's going to be a co-promotion type of situation, or how would that possibly work out when you get to one of those kind of guys?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not all the way sure yet about that. I mean, that's something that we've actually been talking about.
Okay.
Like I said, because that's coming up pretty soon. Like I said, I probably got about maybe 1 to 2 more fights before I'm fighting one of those guys, for a title or in a big fight. So I'm definitely, we're definitely getting prepared for that. So I mean, whatever the case, needs to happen, all will be well. That's the only thing
Mm-hmm.
I can really speak as far as that.
All right, so there's a unique thing, and I think marketing is a massive thing specifically for sports where you kind of rely on yourself for promotion and everything along those lines. And one thing I know you kind of brand yourself by is when you guys have the weigh-ins, you always bring some kind of gift to your opponent you're matching up with. So I got to ask for the backstory behind that. How did that originally start? Who inspired you to do that? And just take us through that whole idea.
Well, yeah, actually, one of my it was really me and one of my close friends. He's actually a middleweight. His name is Bilal Quinton. He's actually me and him. We just cultivated it together. Like we was, we just friends. We just being funny, and we were just like, man, we gonna start. We gotta separate ourselves. Me and him. We have our own little clique, and it was called the P2CK, the pack. You know what I'm saying? And we just kind of was like, all right, well, we're gonna start giving gifts to people at the weigh-ins. And so, my first one was giving somebody a Happy Meal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and coincidentally, he didn't make weight either. So it kind of just hilarious how everything just came together naturally. But and then he gave somebody a step stool. So then it was just after that, obviously me being on a bigger, he's still just starting out his career. So me being on that higher scale, um, he kind of just even though it was a thing we were both doing, it was more so like he kind of just like elevated me more so and kind of was following behind me after that. If that kind of makes sense.
So do we have any preview on what the next one could possibly be for the one on August 30th?
Um, Let's just say um, let's just say I'm gonna beat the shit out of him.
Absolutely, man. Well, I got a couple more things before I let you go. One of them is I want to talk about your style of fighting because I think it's a unique style. It's got a lot of different traits. Obviously, you can tell you take different bits and pieces from different fighters or whatnot. But one of them is drunken master style. We see that you put that on display here and there. Walk us through how you've built yourself as a fighter. Who would you say are some of the guys that you've taken bits and pieces from and put them into your game to create the fighter you are today?
Oh yeah, great question. Like I said, it's I don't know. I've always like admired the fighters who were showmen. I love the showman style type of fighting. I've always admired that. So, like I said, but at the same time, I love aggressiveness too. So I mean, it's different, man. You can always take influence from a lot of these guys, but of course, like I said, from Floyd Mayweather, Sugar Ray Leonard,
Mm,
Henry Armstrong. He's probably my favorite. I guess you say old school fighter. Probably one of my
sure.
favorite. Henry Armstrong, or Emmanuel Augustus, of course, Prince Nassim, um, what's his name? Orlando Canizales, um, and yeah, I would say like those guys would probably be. Oh, and of course, Pernell Whitaker and
Mm.
and Muhammad Ali. Like just those guys are pretty much the craftsmanship of the Wolf for the most part. Like I watch those guys all those guys regularly, like
Mm.
back to back for the most part.
All right, so the other thing I got to get into with you is that there's been a lot of sparring stuff come out about you in the past couple years. One of which we know is with Tank Davis. We know you're also a part of Frank Martin, helping him prepare for his fights. Walk us through your just overall sparring, though. When you talk about some of these guys that you get into camp with, and you also get improved, you help them get ready for their fight, but they're also helping you get better as a fight. What would you say has been some of your favorite groups? Like, who would you say has been some of your favorite sparring partners?
I mean, well, I've always said Tank was my favorite. That was the best, and favorite sparring session of mine, just because, like I said, I've never ever taken any credit away from him. Tank is an incredible fighter. I mean,
Yeah.
he's strong, he's fast, he's quick, he can box, he's very technical. I mean, he's smart. Like he's a great fighter. I just think that he might have underestimated me during that time. And like I said, we were young. He was about 20, 21, and I was 17. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we were very young, and it was 10 years ago. So there's a lot to be learned during that time. But yeah, like I said, I done sparred with Gary Russell, sparred with Rasheed Warren, um, Jojo Diaz, a couple other I guess you say contenders and whatnot. I fought in the amateurs. I mean, I fought and beat Rolly Romero.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I fought Hector Tanayara. I fought, man, so many guys. So like I said, me and Bruce Carrington, that's one of my homies. Me and him, we went 1-1 in the Olympic trials.
Mm-hmm.
So that, like I said, that's even as friends, that's a match that we've already talked about, settling sometime in the pros when, in the future for, and hopefully it can be for a title or just a big money fight in general,
Mm-hmm.
to add to the resume on both of our careers. But yeah, like I said, I've been in there with a lot of guys, though, man. I've sparred a lot of guys, and it's been great. I've had a cool journey as far as that goes. And for the most part, I haven't really had any. The Tank situation is really the only one that's ever kind of went like how to a negative. I've never
Sure.
had any negative experiences with anybody else though.
So I got two final questions for you. The first one is that we know it's still about a month out, but when you talk about getting ready to go in that fight, what's your prediction? What do you want to accomplish in that fight? When do you think you could be KOing him if that is your goal in that fight? Like what's your game plan there?
Like I said, do I expect a knockout? I do,
Mm-hmm.
just because I always expect the best of myself, but I like us to simply put, I just want to have fun. That's it. I'm gonna let this fight will be different than every other fight I've had, just because I don't want to even think about none of that stuff. I don't want to think about trying to knock him out. I don't want to think about nothing but just having fun, letting it flow, and whatever happens, happens. That's all I'm thinking about.
Absolutely, man. Well, my final question for you: when you talk about the day that you end up putting up the gloves, you decide to step away from boxing. What do you want your legacy to be, and what do you want to be remembered for throughout your career?
Well, definitely somebody who never quit. Of course, somebody who, like I said, whether it was relentless, somebody who always put forth their best effort. Because I feel like really that's all that you can do in the day. You're fighting somebody who's training just like you, who's blood, sweat, and tears just like you. So ultimately, I just want to be known as somebody who fought with true heart. I want to be known as a people's champion if possible. Because I'm fighting for more than just myself. It's not all just for personal gain. Of course, that's a part of it. Everybody wants to earn money. Everybody wants to provide a stable living for their family and all those things. But it's a lot deeper than that for me. Like all these things will also coincide in helping with my philanthropic aspirations. I would love to, like I said, start some big foundations. Maybe a nonprofit. Just I have a lot of ideas that I would like to do to give back to the community and just give back to the world in general. You know what I'm saying? Like, me being, I don't know. that's just something that was kind of instilled by my parents. You know what I'm saying? Kind of the humanitarian aspect. You know, that's not lost on me. You know, I even soon I'm even gearing up for some food drives and just other stuff like that, man. You know, it's just important. It's important to give back. It's important to let people know that, you know, we ain't alone out here. You know, everybody. You know, we togetherness. It's always gonna be better to be together than instead of one. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. Well, I definitely love that. And thank you for taking time to come on today, man. I'm excited to see what God's got in store for you on August 30th. And best of luck out there, man.
Man, I appreciate you, bro. And like I said, you know, I'm sure this probably won't be our last time speaking, but like I said, it was a pleasure. You're actually one of the better interviewers that I've had the pleasure of interviewing with, so I appreciate you for that as well. And like I said, man, until next time, brother.
Absolutely, man. You're always welcome on, man. Can't wait to see what God's got in store for you in a couple weeks, man.
No doubt. August 30th, the hunt continues. Y'all tune in.
Absolutely, man. All right, talk to you later, man. God bless.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate everyone for tuning in today for that interview. I'll have one last segment to wrap this show up in a little bit. But once again, appreciate everyone for tuning in. I'll see you guys right after this break. All right, God bless you guys.
From the moment I was born, a ball was in my hands and a deep passion for sports was ignited. My dream was to play the game for as long as possible, but God had other plans. After battling with severe illnesses caused by black mold poisoning for nearly 4 years, I made the difficult decision to let go of my on-court dreams heading into my junior year of high school. However, I was determined to have one last victorious moment as an athlete, and that was achieved on February 9th, 2019, when I ran a marathon at the age of 16. That night, as I took a recovering Epsom salt bath, I felt God place on my heart the idea to start a podcast. Although I didn't know where to begin, the first episode of SchuZ Views dropped on March 11th, 2019. Over the next 1,183 days, more than 600,000 people tuned into 1,056 interviews. Then, on June 6, 2022, my final interview for over a year was released featuring Jameer Young. I never once thought that I'd be off the air for over a year, but the truth is there was something missing in me. At first, I thought creating a website would help fill that void, so I went and put together SchuZ.net, but nothing changed. Throughout the next month, I continued searching for answers, and eventually, God worked in the only way that would have gotten my attention at that point in time. Through something work-related. By the end of July 2022, my parents blessed me with the opportunity to build a studio. However, before breaking ground, the real change began. On August 3rd, 2022, my life changed forever. Once again, I happened to be taking a bath late into the night, and suddenly, an indescribable feeling came upon me. It was a profound urge to open up my Bible and read. I turned to 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and since that night, not a single day has passed without me spending time in the Word. You see, what was missing all along was Jesus. On August 6th, my dad and I began to lay the foundation for the next chapter of my career. Simultaneously, the foundation of who I was created to be was also being laid. Over the years, I had lost sight of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I knew of God, but I didn't know Him, and I certainly was not following or living like Him. But day by day, the new me began to take shape. My former self's sole priority faded away, and I began to live out the acronym I often talked about, FJTFOE. It stands for First Jesus, then Family Over Everything. God became my everything, and He transformed me entirely. He helped me rediscover my love for family, running, lifting, playing basketball, giving back, the church, and most importantly, Him. This journey began with a craving to nourish my old identity, but God's hand was always in control, rapidly shaping my new identity. As God transformed me, He also grew my relationship with every member of my family. Together they stood by me and contributed to the person I am today. Through it all, Ephesians chapter 3 verse 20 manifested its truth in my life. The blessings I received far exceeded anything I could have imagined. The truth is that God's hand has always been there, but now I'm committed to following His path. Although I may look different, and my heart has undergone a profound change, I am truly blessed to announce the beginning of a new chapter. Starting July 24th, I will be launching my new show, the SchuZ Show, which will air on my YouTube channel every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I can't wait for you guys to join me in this next chapter. I'll see you guys soon, and may God bless you all.
There is a funny aspect about you, and that's the fact that I don't think you necessarily even tried to, but there's been countless times in your brief NBA career already that you've made it viral. You've made memes of yourself, whatever it might be. One of which was in the midst of that 40-point streak. You obviously broke LeBron's record, and you made your comment saying about, well, I'm not really a LeBron guy, I'm a Kobe guy. And I don't think you even intended that to go viral. Now you have that.
Nah, not at all.
There's your Steve Nash moment during the Summer League. We know that aspect. I think that was after the second year. You had a fun, obviously, at one point. You have your branding that you've now done. When you look at all these, like, do you ever intend to expect something to go viral or be funny, or does you just end up happening, and then by the time you get back on your phone, you're like, oh, this already just went down, dang.
Bro, that's crazy. No, not at all. No, because even with my brand, like when a random person asks me, because random people always see like, oh, he's so serious, and I'm just like, bro, and then I say it all the time.
Staying consistent, I move with the clock. I'm in the zone, I'm not casting a stone. I'm finna stand on a rock, firm foundation. I got that dog in me, like 101 Dalmatian. I got girl with me, so I knew that I'm still finna make it. I'm still finna take it. I hopped in the ring and I'm still going crazy. I cut off this thing like I just got a taper. I walk in the storm and then God gave me favor. I'm still going forward. I just had to lock in the Lord. I knew that I'm finna make it. Doing my old self, he got deported. Shout out to the king and I'm finna take it.
Welcome back, everyone, to the SchuZ Show. This will be the final segment of today's Thursday, August 1st, 2024 show. And with that, it's going to be the final segment of the day, which is Combat Currents, where I'll be unmasking combat currents of today's fight world. I gave a preview to what was going to unfold today on the Monday episode, and I said that there's going to be quite the event that must be broken down on Thursdays. As I said, this is obviously a new segment, and so ideally what's going to be happening is Mondays will be reflecting and reacting to everything that went down over the weekend fights. And then I'm going to move forward on Thursdays and we're going to be previewing the upcoming fights. And well, this week is quite the event we're going to preview because this is the fight card for this weekend on Saturday. It is being proclaimed as most likely being the greatest fight card on American soil. Now, is it the greatest individual fight ever on American soil? Probably not. But in terms of the card, we look at these names. You've got everything you could ever really ask or want here. There is countless champions going to be involved here, both current, former champions. We've got big names. It's an all-day event. It's going to be a loaded card. Now, before I break down this card, though, I do want to mention something, though. And since I haven't talked about it, obviously it's been something that I've been reflecting on and talking about recently because we talk about what His Excellency Turkey has been building in boxing in just about a little bit over a year, right at a year, somewhere around there. It's been phenomenal. And I think just the way he's continued to evolve and change now. This is the very first event that's not being held in Saudi Arabia. It's now being held in Los Angeles this week for the first one on American soil held by him. But what he's been trying to bring into boxing has been unique. And we saw it last night. Last night was a really incredible showing that they put together. It's an all-week display of celebrating it, preparing for the fights. We have everything throughout the duration of a week that is all being streamed live. You can watch it every single day between the grand arrivals, you have the open workouts, you have press conference today, weigh-ins, and I haven't seen the press conference yet since it's been going on during the show. But last night, grand arrivals, we have the open workouts yesterday. We see all the fighters work out, and then he does something a little bit unique. And this got released and announced, I think it was about Thursday, Friday, something like that, where he was going to switch up a little bit. Instead of just having the open workouts and then concluding, he was going to add in a 3-fight card last night that went down. And that was interesting. You have a couple of young guys that are up-and-comers. You have a couple top 10 ranked fighters in the respective weight classes. And so we had a 3-fight card last night after the open workouts. something that we haven't seen before. Now, this is something that we can't expect from other promotions to necessarily do because we know the funding that Saudi has and His Excellency has. So when they're putting this together, he knows that this is a free product. Anybody could attend last night, and you saw the way that the whole broadcasting crew talked about this. The way the crowd grew from the beginning of the fight, when not many people knew about it, to as large as that crowd was there by the end of the night was incredible to see. And so we had a 3-fight card last night. We had Mark Castro, he beat George Acosta. Then we had Giasov, he outpointed Miguel Parra. That was a fight that I thought he won by a lot more than he should have. He's setting himself up to be a contender fight in the very near future. We probably will see that before the end of the year, early next year now. And then we had Nathan Lugo. He stopped Ray Corona, and that was also an interesting fight. I don't think in that stop, Lugo was going to defeat him regardless. It was a beatdown. However, I do think the ref stopped a little early, but however, it was obviously going to be over very shortly. The point I'm making here, though, is that when we look at the changing of boxing, a lot of people will critique or say certain things about whatever His Excellency is doing. But from a business aspect, the truth is that there was Dana White talked about this before, and he mentioned how so many of these boxing events, they're not built to build a fan base in the sense that it's not really a business plan. It's not meant for fans to be enjoyable and to be a direct to consumer, and the consumers enjoy the product. They want to keep returning to the product. It is a one-off experience time and time again. And it's not like they've been building something. And so what His Excellency has done is he's coming in now and he's building a blueprint. He knows that it's going to take a lot of money to rebuild the sport back up to the spotlight that he believes it should be at and it has the potential to be at. And he's importing all this elite talent to make these great cards. He's putting on an entire event. It's an all-week event, each and every single one of these fight cards. He's putting on mega performances. We have Eminem performing this weekend in the Saudi fight that's going down in LA. You've got the little baby and that whole performance that went on in between the Francis fight against Tyson Fury. It's a constant evolution of what he's building in boxing right now, and it's something that he's building a fan base. This is going to take a couple years to build up, and it's quickly growing. But to get to a point where the UFC has a much better business model, we see how well the value of the business has grown and skyrocketed in years recently. It's going to need to form something. And I know there's rumors. We know what everything unfolding and his dream plan is of getting everybody into an organization and having essentially the UFC of boxing. That's a topic I can get into another time. But I think what he's building is spectacular. I think it's amazing for the sport. I think it's changing the sport. I think it's revolutionizing the sport. That being said, though, I just want to give a shout out to that before I break down this card now. Because this weekend, we also have UFC Fight Night. I'm not going to get into that. It is a nice card out there in Abu Dhabi. A couple other minor boxing events going on this weekend as well. However, there is, as I said, what deserves all the rest of the show they're talking about is the mega fight card going down this weekend. I'm going to put it back up on the screen right now. This is going to be one of the biggest boxing events of the year. And it will be the biggest card, most likely, at least one of the biggest boxing cards to ever be held on American soil. It's a 7-card fight, and it's going to be a show. Now, to go break this all down, I'm going to give you guys my prediction on what I think is going to happen in each one of these fights and my overall just thoughts on this fight card. So, as I said, it's going to be an all-day event, and it's going to be enticing. It's going to be exciting to see what all unfolds here. The very first fight, though, that I want to go into is I guess we'll start off the bottom here and work our way down and work our way up. So the very first fight I wanted to discuss here now is, actually we're going to start off with here. The first fight card on this card I want to get into is Andy Cruz. I think Andy Cruz is going to win that fight. But it's going to be an interesting fight because we have Andy Cruz. He's a Cuban Olympic gold medalist in the 2021 or 2020 Olympics, obviously held in 2021. He is skyrocketed. He is an incredible fighter, and this is going to be his first time that we get to watch him on the big stage now. He is heading into this fight 3-0, 1 KO, and I think he's going to go out there. He fights Antonio Morin, and he's going to have he's 36-1, 21 KOs. It's going to be a 10-round fight there. But I think Andy Cruz is going to win that fight. To put it in perspective, I'm not sure exactly what round it will go down in. It might even go to the decision. However, I think that Andy Cruz is going to be one of the premier fighters of the future. We all kind of want the rematch from the Olympic game of Keyshawn Davis and Andy Cruz. That will happen in the future. It's not going to be something that's going to happen anytime soon, I don't believe. However, I think people finally get to go see Andy Cruz. He's going to be on the biggest spotlight of his career. This is a major step-up fight for himself. And I think that people are going to start to see why this is one of the hottest, rising, most anticipated, young, up-and-coming boxers for the next generation. Next fight I want to go into is David Morrell. He's 10-0, 9 KOs. He's going to be taking on former world title challenger, and he's going to be fighting Rodi Hoyuv Kalahij. This is a fight that he's 29-2. I'm going to go with David Morrell here as well. Another bright future there as a fighter, and I think it's going to be a close one. This one is one of my 50-50 ones. I'm not 100% positive on this one. This is for the light heavyweight deal, or light heavyweight belt, and so it's going to be a little bit. That one's going to be an interesting fight there. I do think that one's I'm not very confident on that prediction right there. It's going to be back and forth there. However, I do also want to touch up on a couple other ones on this card now. So those are some of the undercard ones. Now we're going to get to the main card. And the one I want to first address here now is going to be the two young guys, or the one young guy, I should say, Jarrett Anderson. So Jarrett Anderson is a sensational American heavyweight boxer. We know he's one of the young up-and-coming guys. And he's going to be fighting Martin Bakole. And Martin Bakole, he's 20-1. Jarrett Anderson is 17-0, 15 KOs. This is a major step-up fight for Jarrett Anderson. This is the one that I'm really looking at and have circled here. This is a statement one for both these guys. Both guys finally at last get their opportunity to have a mega fight now. And this is going to be on a world stage. We know Jarrett Anderson's one of the hyped-up guys. And if we're going to be honest right now, Jarrett, the heavyweight division, which has for a long time been dominated in America, has been the premier boxing weight class of America. We think all the all-time greats that stem from that group. Deontay Wilder was a one-man show primarily for the entirety of the past generation. That time has pretty much come to gone. I don't know if we're going to see Deontay Wilder again, and if we do, I don't think he's himself anywhere near that. And so we're at a position right now where we're looking around, and there is only one guy that we really have hopes for, and that is Jarrett Anderson. We haven't seen him fight in a mega fighting card like this yet. This will be the very first time we're going to be able to see him fight in this level. And I'm excited for it. I don't know exactly what to expect, although I will say I do have him winning. He looks extremely focused. We saw the open workout yesterday. He was locked in and assertive. Now, Martin Bakole, he is a great fighter as well. We've seen his track record. He has a ton of talent. He has only got one loss on his record. He is a heavy hitter, a big guy. But I think when you look at Jarrett Anderson, this is going to be his hometown, or his home nation. Obviously not a hometown, but we see the promise in this guy. And I know he said there's not a lot of pressure. However, not a lot of athletes look at pressure as something that they really put himself. He's learned how to adapt and remove that self from him. We know there's been a lot of outside of boxing situations he's had to go through recently, and it appears he's more focused now. And when he steps in that ring, there is, from the outside looking in, there has to be pressure, because the heavyweight reigns in America is held by him. There's nobody else we look at and we say, okay, well, this guy's got a legitimate chance. And this guy is an incredible fighter. Now, this is a massive step up. He's only 24 years old, and he's already fighting on one of the biggest cards in American history. He's going to have to make a statement, and if he does make a statement, he goes out there and defeats Martin Bakole, and especially if he does it in a quick and dominant fashion, then he immediately jumps into that top group. Now, the heavyweight division belts are tied up for a while now. We're looking at least 18 months, I'd say, until we see a belt really, truly open up. But he can go fight some of these other big guys that are up in that group. We know Joseph Parker's in that group. We know Zhilei Zhang is in that group. I do know if he wins this fight, it's not going to happen. But obviously, I know people have rumored Deontay Wilder prior to Wilder's last loss. That could somewhat be there. But there's a lot of guys in the heavyweight division, tons of guys you could go fight. And he would officially submit himself as the future of the heavyweight division. He would really essentially submit himself as being one of the top guys up and coming, but also in the present time. And so that's something we're going to have to look forward to in that fight as well. I do have Jarrett Anderson winning that fight, though. I think it'll be by KO as well. Now, the next fight I want to touch up to is an interesting fight. Quite frankly, when we go back to the December 23rd card and we watched Big Baby go and fight, I thought this might be the end of it. Daniel Dubois ended up KOing him in the final seconds of that fight, but he just didn't look himself. And then he gets back and he gets in trouble with the law, and those situations occur. Now, he gets back, though, and His Excellency announces he's going to be on this card. And then we find out he's fighting Andy Ruiz, who is a guy that has not fought in 2 entire years. He's only had 2 fights in 5 years. And so we look at this, and there's 2 guys, one of which, Andy Ruiz, is the former unified heavyweight world champion, most notably for the upset on Anthony Joshua. And then we look at Big Baby Miller, who he had a great career and has now gone 26-1-1 in his entire career, 22 KOs, but he's also been quite inactive overall. Not as bad as Andy Ruiz, though. And so when we look at this fight, I was quite intrigued in saying, okay, well, I'm not sure what to expect, quite frankly, here. But I'm going to have to go with a guy that has been a little bit more experienced recently and has gone to be a little bit more active, and that is Jarrett Big Baby Miller. The thing I'm going to say about this is that we saw him walk out in the workouts last night. He looked overall confident. The biggest thing I said, and this video has not been recorded, or I'm not aware of the weigh-ins yet. That's not going to be held until Friday. Right now it's Thursday, obviously. Supposedly, and he looks like it, he's going to be under 300 pounds for the first time in a very, very long time. And he looks in shape. If he is lower than 300 pounds, I think he's going to win this fight, and quite easily, to be honest. However, Andy Ruiz, this isn't his backyard. It's his home state. He's going to have a lot of support out there, and so we'll see what happens there. Ultimately, this is a 50-50 fight. I will go with Big Baby on this fight, though. Next up is one fight that I think is going to be incredibly enticing and exciting to look at, and that is the co-main event. Isaac Cruz will be fighting Jose Valenzuela. I have Pitbull winning this one, but it's going to be a close one. Listen, Pitbull, he is 26-2-1 in his career now, 18 KOs. And then you're going to go against Jose, who's 13-2, 9 KOs. Now, he's got a championship now. Pitbull won that just against Raleigh a couple of months ago now. I think Pitbull's a really intriguing fighter now. He does fight a unique way. We know that he's had 2 losses. He's able to be beaten, one of which is to Tank Davis. So that one we can kind of put aside. We know who Tank Davis obviously is. But the way he fights is an intriguing way. He could not have picked a better nickname for himself than Pitbull. We know he's going to be on the attack the entire fight. He does not lay off the gas. I know there's lots of jokes going on around last night. In his workout, he was using the jab. He does not use the jab when he fights. Typically, I should say, who knows what's going to happen this weekend. But he's going to be on the attack from the get-go. If Valenzuela can get away from that and he can go fight his fight, obviously there's a chance to be on points. However, I do expect Isaac Cruz to be the guy that walks away from that fight victorious. I think he's going to put on a fight that's going to be possibly the fight of the night. I think he can win in dominant fashion. That is where I put my money on, would be on Isaac Cruz. One of the premier exciting fighters to watch. He is explosive. He's going to go right at the gate. He puts the pressure on from the first bell to the last bell. He is a dominant fighter. That's box office. Now for the main event. This is going to be a fight that a lot of people have been critical on. A lot of people say, well, is this the right guy for Terence Crawford to fight right now? I say absolutely. I don't see what the problem would be here. We look at this. Terence Crawford is a 3-weight world champion. He's a 2-division undisputed king. And he's going to go move up weight class once again now to fight a champion. And people might say, well, Israel Madmirov, he's 10-0. He has not fought that many guys before. This is a very inexperienced fighter for a guy of Bud's caliber to fight. A guy that is, in a lot of people's opinion, the number 1 fighter in the entire world. He's certainly top 3 in my opinion. I think we have Usyk, Inoue, and then him. But they're so close, and the gap between 3 and 4 and everybody else is significant. So I think those 3 guys are solidified there. Whichever way you put that order is fine. But is this the guy that Bud should be fighting? And we looked through his workout last night, and Bud is going to be A-okay. Obviously, I'm putting my money on Bud. However, let me point this out. Israel Madmirov, he's had a lot of sneaky fights where he comes out and pulls off an interesting, maybe unorthodox even move to get the KO to move on and win fights. He's a very disciplined fighter, and everything he does is good. You look at the way he just worked out yesterday in the open workout. Every move he makes is perfect. There's really nothing. He's just about textbook. Now, can textbook beat somebody that's elite and all-time great, a first ballot Hall of Famer that's in his prime still? I don't think so. However, he's going to be a sound fighter. Will he do big gambling mistakes? I don't really see that's going to happen. However, I do think he is going to be a guy that we're looking at, and he could put up an interesting fight. I think he's an incredible fighter. Let me make that clear. He is one heck of a fighter, and regardless of what happens in this Bud fight, this will be the biggest fight of his life. He has a chance to go on and be champion again, and he can go on and do great things. He's an incredible fighter. But you're fighting a guy that's won 11 straight fights by stoppage. He's coming off of 1 year ago now, his biggest fight of his career, the fight that finally put him on the national spotlight, grew him into becoming the big personality and name that he is now, with his defeat TKO on Earl Spence, which has pretty much ended his career now at this point in time. This is a guy that's going to be very, very, very tough to beat. And Israel Madmirov, he is a great fighter, as I said. Do not underestimate him. I think it's still going to be a guy that can put up a fight against Bud. But the truth is that when you look at a guy of Bud's caliber, there's not many guys that's going to be able to defeat him regardless. There's not many guys that you're going to be able to put in front of Bud that's going to stop him. We're talking about one of the only possible guys that can defeat Bud right now that we look at as being a big fight left for him right now is having to move up multiple weight classes to go and try to fight Canelo. That's what we're really looking at this point in time with Bud, of who could even be competitive with him. And that's such a anomaly that most people are never going to look at a guy and say, hey, we want you to possibly fight up 3 weight classes. You don't do that. But since Bud is this dominant, this good, as elite of a fighter as he is, the destruction that he's put on guys, 11 straight fights by stoppage, what he did to Earl Spence 1 year ago, there's not much guys. You look at the list, who we're really going to pick from for him to possibly go out there and fight. As I said, yeah, sure, move up and fight Canelo. We're trying to get that fight done. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But there's not many guys that you look at and say there's a shot at even beating or dethroning Bud Crawford right now. So that's going to be an interesting fight. Obviously, you can go back and you can watch what Israel just did recently. He had the 5th round TKO over in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on the Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou fight. We know he's got game. We know he's talented. It's going to be an interesting fight that goes down that night. But I will have Bud Crawford winning that fight. And don't forget, obviously, he has Eminem relationship, and Eminem will be performing. I believe it's set to be right before the main event, which is the Bud Crawford fight. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to be set up, but it's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be an exciting day that I think everybody in the boxing world will be interested in. It is, as I said in the beginning, this is going to be one of, if not the biggest fight cards ever put together on American soil this weekend. So it's going to be one of the biggest nights for boxing in the entire year of recent memory, and it should be an incredible fight. So that being said, though, I just want to say appreciate everybody for tuning in today once again. I'm excited to see what we got for the future Saturday. I'll get back to you guys and break down the entire fight on Saturday for you guys on the Monday show. Also announce if there's any guests or whatnot. But I appreciate everybody for tuning in this week, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys back on here again on Monday. God bless you guys and have a great weekend.